So you guys want to know the difference between Seattle and Portland? Well, in this video, we're going to get straight into it. What's going on, everybody? It's Justin Gazaba, and this is Moving to Seattle, Washington. This is the channel where we deep dive on eating, living, sleeping, playing, everything that you need to know right here in Seattle. And in this video, we're going to talk about the difference between Seattle and Portland. Kind of, if you're looking for one of those great Northwest, Pacific Northwest cities, these are your two major metropolitan areas where people move to work and to get outside into the mountains. So we want to kind of break things down for you to show you the differences. You might find that Seattle's not a good fit for you and Portland's a better fit, or other way around. We're helping people make that move out here to the Seattle area. We've got great folks that we can help you with in Portland too, but we focus primarily here on the Seattle Metro. So if you're considering making a move, reach out to us, give us a call so that we can help you find a neighborhood that fits your active lifestyle. We're helping people do it all the time, but we can't help you unless you reach out. So give us a buzz, shoot us a text, and let us know how we can help, right? So let's get into today's topic, which is the difference between Seattle and Portland. Now, I'm not a big sports fan. I'm not really into baseball or football or soccer, but I can tell you that the Timbers suck. So only because I support my friends who love the Sounders. So I'm going to kick it off right there. And if it drives you crazy, I'd love to hear you down in the comments. Tell me how I'm wrong. Also, the Trailblazers aren't a real basketball team. I'm pretty sure that's the name of their basketball team. The Sonics were all time. They're the greatest, and that we're going to stick with that. So now that I've got you all fired up about sports, I'm going to tell you again that I couldn't name a player. I don't know who they are, and I just support my friends who love sports. I like to go to the games with them. I would never go out on my own. So with that being said, let's get into some things that we can actually talk about, right? So if you come to me later and you want to talk to me about sports, I promise you I will not be able to name a player. So anything that you write in the comments, I just won't be able to comment back on because I don't know who they are. Gary Payton, Sean Kemp, that's pretty much the last time I remember anybody from the Sonics, and that's it. So that's all you get. So that being said, let's jump into the differences between Seattle and Portland. Now, Seattle is on an isthmus. It's a narrow passageway. There's water on both sides. It's really narrow and skinny, and north to south is really easy. East to west is really hard. Portland is just, they get cut right, all choppy by this, I think it's the Deschutes, or no, it's the Columbia, sorry. And they've got a ton of bridges. It's everywhere you go, you're gonna cross 5 bridges before you get to where you need to go. It's just the way that Portland's set up. And because of that, both Seattle and Portland are very neighborhood centric, but Portland more so. Portland, just because of the geographical way it's confined and the way the river cuts everything up, Northeast Portland, the Pearl District, all that area, all those neighborhoods are really neighborhood centric. There's lots of local food eateries in those neighborhoods, and they really do, all jokes aside with the TV show Portlandia, but it is kind of that artisan hub of types of restaurants, coffee shops, and bakeries. And we have that here in Seattle, but Seattle is a bigger metropolitan area, and as Seattle grows and as we see more and more traffic on our roadways, we are starting to see that neighborhoods are really distinct here. Some of the biggest neighborhoods, Lower Queen Anne, Capitol Hill, Ballard, Columbia City, those areas are very well formed neighborhoods and areas with all the amenities that you're looking for. In Seattle, it gets really hard to cross over and cross traffic. So what people really look for is, hey, where am I going to get the most bang for my buck? And here in Seattle, the median price of a home, now that's the middle price, that's the middle price of a home, so there's more, there's some less, there's some more, is about $714,000. And that's, we see that number vary. I've seen median prices around, saying in the 800s, but 714. And in Portland, we're seeing 419,000. So almost half the cost to get into Portland, whereas the United States overall, is looking around $230,000 for your median home in the middle, not your average, but your median. So just there's a difference there. The reason I bring that up is because in Seattle, we are starting to see that there's Census Bureau data that came out for Seattle that says the most of the neighborhoods in Seattle are now making six figures, where in Portland, it's a very different story. Are you going to lose money by taking a job down in Portland? So overall, Portland is less expensive. Their groceries are a little less expensive. Healthcare is is actually a little more expensive in Portland than it is here in Seattle. Housing is quite significantly less expensive. But when you get down to income, the income in Portland is also significantly less. Now maybe you're in an industry and you have fixed prices, or you've got one of those work from home deals and you can figure that out, and you're in the tech industry and maybe you're able to get down there. The thing is that overall though, Portland, you're just going to make less money than you would in Seattle. Overall, that's how those numbers shake out. You really have to better understand what you're going to get bang for your buck wise. Now, in so far as your experience living in each city, right? Each city is a Pacific Northwest gem, right? You think about access to mountains, access to the water, access to all those outdoor activities. Both places are gonna fulfill you in the way that you're gonna be able to get out into the mountains and be able to do stuff. So. Or out into the ocean, good access to the Pacific Ocean. There's a handful of things though that really make the difference, and I think that if you look at arts and culture and you like kind of more of that small town feel, although Portland is growing, you're going to have in some of those neighborhoods, you're going to feel like you're more in a small town. Neighborhoods are more like what we have here. Downtown is kind of like Capitol Hill for Portland and the Pearl District, and some of the other Northwest Portland areas are kind of like Ballard in the way that they have that small town feel. But Seattle is just a much bigger metropolitan city, or a metropolis. It just expands further north and south. Now, when it comes to nightlife, I'm gonna say that overall, it's a lot easier to get around to spots in Portland than it is in Seattle. Just because of the density of their neighborhoods, because of where the attractions are, the Pearl District and some of the other neighborhoods, you can bounce around really easily. But if you're in Seattle and you're out in Capitol Hill, it's really easy to get around and go to different places in Capitol Hill. It's just that if you wanted to cross town in Seattle, it takes a long time, and I think that there's a lot to do here in Seattle. Both are recognized nationally for their food scene and nightlife and clubs, but Portland, the neighborhoods, I think they're a little more compact and a little bit easier to get around and go from place to place as you go. But the same trouble exists if you're going to go from one neighborhood to the next neighborhood in Portland. You're going to have to drive around, you're going to have to go over bridges, you're going to have to find your way around, which can make things kind of difficult if you're planning to go to different areas of the city. But it is a smaller city, so that I haven't spent too much time bouncing around Portland. I've only been down in town a handful of times, really stayed there a few times to check it out. As we did that, we really stayed in the neighborhoods that we were in, whereas in Seattle, it's a little bit easier to just drive around and get around that way. So when it comes to visiting or traveling or doing anything in both Portland or Seattle, if you're comfortable in Portland, you're going to be comfortable in Seattle and vice versa. They generally have a similar vibe in the very welcoming and open communities, easy to get along with folks. So that shouldn't be an issue. Portland seems to have a closer, smaller, tighter knit communities in a lot of regards, but we also have that here in Seattle as you get out and get into some of the coffee shops, and you get your brewed kombucha or whatever you're looking for, and your fancy coffee drinks, whatever you're looking for. Both communities have that, artisan bakeries and that sort of thing, and you have that as you build a routine, very comfortable and very easy, even as you travel, to hit up those local spots and feel very comfortable in either location, if that's your scene, right? It's really easy to get into the different activities, whether it's rock climbing or hiking or sailing. Those communities in and of themselves in both areas are quite welcoming. So all the outdoor activities and stuff, if you do like either, like I've talked about in the past, you do meetups to meet people. If you're new to the area, you go, do your favorite, top 2 or 3 things. You're going to meet people who are interested. Run clubs. Both cities have that appeal and easy to get along with people, so long as you're going out and doing it, right? It's just not going to come to you, especially if you're new, right, to the area. I think a little bit of the Seattle freeze makes its way down to Portland, and can be kind of difficult for people if they're not willing to get out and go out and do things. And really, because they're outdoor meccas, that's really what you should be doing, is getting out and doing those things. So a couple of last things to think about, with going out to eat and maybe your general cost of living in Portland. There's a thriving thrift scene, Goodwills and different thrift stores that you're able to jump in and out. They have that here too in Seattle, but it's not as prominent, or it doesn't seem as cultural norm as it does in Portland. Both cities have the takeout restaurants and stuff like that. Portland is a little bit cheaper in that regard, as we discussed before, so that can lighten things up. And then public transit. Portland's public transit, I gotta say, is probably a little bit better than Seattle. Seattle has come a long way with their Link Light Rail system. Like we talked about, it's easy to get north to south, but it's hard to get east to west. I think that one of the big differences and things to consider is when you look at what companies are in Portland versus what companies are in Seattle, what that cost of living looks like, how much your pay is going to be in each city, and what that amounts to as your monthly expenditures. Just because there is such a difference in housing, but there is such a greater there's a greater propensity for higher income here in Seattle. So depending on where you're willing to live, you can save a considerable amount of money living here in Seattle, making those commutes, especially now that we're seeing a lot of 50% work from home, or got to be in the office 2 days a week kind of thing, depending on your job and what you're looking for, especially in those as we start to see Seattle become a 6-figure and higher city, based off of what wages are. You can really save a lot more money by living here versus living in Portland. But it's a choice. Do you like the neighborhoods, or do you like a little bit bigger city? Seattle has a skyline, right? Portland doesn't have a skyline. So really the last thing to think about when you're doing the math, what city's for you, let's think about what your job's gonna look like, what your income's gonna look like, and is it comparable, Seattle to Portland? Portland is less expensive overall of a place to live than Seattle, but they still suffer a lot of the same, homelessness. There's still a big issue with affordability and how many homes are for sale, and there's still all, the whole nation is kind of facing those issues. But if you really look at it, Portland is about 20% less expensive than Seattle. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to save money, because you might make a lot more money here in Seattle. It just really depends on what you're trying to do, what your lifestyle looks like. Both cities, like I say, offer a great opportunity to get outside. Portland, if you move to Seattle, I would really plan on bringing a car, getting a car when you're here. It's just a little bit more difficult to get around. But there is a tremendous amount of value in living in Seattle, just because of the job opportunities. There's a lot more Fortune 500 and large companies that have headquarters or large offices here in Seattle. Some of them have sister offices down in Portland. So it's really just, think about what you're doing for work and where your money's going to go the furthest, and make the call. If Seattle's the right place for you, give us a buzz. Let me know what your lifestyle looks like, what you're into, what kind of sports and outdoor activities, or do you got kayaks and stuff, so we can get you set up with the right neighborhood that's going to give you years of great service in a home that you're going to love for years to come. So just shoot me a text, give me a call. We're helping people make that move all the time. And if you stayed to the end of this video, hey, let me know down below, did I miss something? Portland versus Seattle. I think they're pretty comparable. We know that Portland's a little bit cheaper, but also that jobs pay a little bit less down there, and oftentimes you can actually save money here and get paid a little bit more here than you normally would, you know, in there. Especially, you know, my friend that's moving to California, when she finally did the math, she's taking the job for the experience, but man, oh man, is it gonna hurt for the next little while, because it's quite a bit more expensive down there. So hope you got a ton of value out of this video, and we'll see you in the next one. Talk to you.